Emma had always been the steady one, the one who took care of everything while her sister Lily floated through life with little regard for the consequences. Growing up in a wealthy family, Emma had learned the value of hard work and responsibility, while Lily seemed to glide effortlessly through life, always getting what she wanted without breaking a sweat. Their parents, wealthy beyond measure, had built a fortune from nothing, their estate consisting of sprawling properties, lucrative businesses, and an unimaginable sum of money that Emma had always assumed she would one day inherit. But when the time came to distribute their wealth, the shocking news hit Emma like a slap in the face. In their will, her parents had chosen to leave everything to Lily. "We've always been proud of you, Emma," her mother's voice had said during the reading of the will, "but you've already built your home. Lily, on the other hand, still has a long way to go. We want to give her the chance to finally take control of her life and legacy." Emma felt the weight of betrayal pressing on her chest. The words didn't sink in at first. They were too cruel, too unjust. She had always been the one to support her parents, to be the reliable one who never asked for anything. She had managed their affairs when her father had fallen ill, worked tirelessly in the family businesses, and been the perfect daughter. Yet none of that seemed to matter. Her sister Lily had never taken anything seriously. Lily had squandered opportunities, partied through life, and had a string of failed relationships. She had no interest in business, no passion for responsibility, and no understanding of the value of what she was about to inherit. In Emma's eyes, Lily didn't deserve a penny. The unfairness of it all tore Emma apart. It wasn't just about the money, it was about everything she had sacrificed to be the good daughter, to be the dependable sibling. She had worked so hard to help her family maintain their empire, only to be told that she didn't need the fortune. And as Lily's wide smile spread across her face during the reading of the will, Emma's blood boiled. Her sister was oblivious to the devastation she had caused. Lily's life had been one of luxury and indulgence, yet Emma, the one who had quietly worked in the shadows, was the one left with nothing. Emma was left to confront a painful truth. Her parents had made their choice, and she was out in the cold. The emotional weight of the disinheritance festered, and with it grew an overwhelming sense of injustice. The resentment began to simmer, a quiet fury that no one seemed to understand. Emma wasn't going to just accept her fate. She had worked hard for everything she had, and now she would find a way to make her parents' decision right, and she would do it with or without their blessing. As Lily gleefully accepted her inheritance, Emma's mind began to turn, the first seeds of her plan growing in the fertile ground of her anger and resentment. Lily's life had always been a whirlwind of excess and indulgence, but now her recklessness was catching up with her in ways she couldn't ignore. The money, the properties, the businesses, everything that Emma had worked so hard to help build was slipping through Lily's fingers like sand. It started with small decisions, unwise investments, extravagant purchases, and business ventures that seemed more about impressing people than about making sound choices. But what once seemed like harmless luxury had quickly escalated into full-blown financial chaos. Lily had always lived for the moment, basking in the privileges she inherited without considering the long-term consequences. She bought a mansion that was far too large for her needs, decked out with designer furniture and a private pool, each new purchase a statement of her wealth. She'd launched a series of ill-conceived business ventures, boutiques, a chain of high-end fitness clubs, even a failing tech startup, none of which had the proper foundation to succeed. When the money began to dwindle, Lily's solution was simple: spend more. She took out loans to fund her lifestyle, using the family fortune as a safety net. But the safety net was unraveling. Her mismanagement spiraled into mounting debt. She'd ignored the advice of financial experts, dismissing them as too boring for someone of her stature. Instead, she'd listened to her own ego, making decisions based on what felt good in the moment, rather than what was wise. As her debts grew, the consequences of her choices became impossible to ignore. Creditors began calling relentlessly, demanding their due. The banks sent notices of default, threatening foreclosure on her mansion. Her businesses, which she had once viewed as her ticket to long-term wealth, began to fail spectacularly. Suppliers demanded payment, employees quit, and customers moved on. The facade of success that Lily had so carefully curated began to crack, revealing the truth. Lily had no idea how to manage the fortune she had been given. From her vantage point, Emma watched the collapse with a growing sense of satisfaction. She'd never wished for her sister's failure, but there was a deep sense of justice in seeing the consequences of Lily's reckless decisions. It was painful to watch the family's legacy unravel, but in the back of Emma's mind, the realization had already begun to take shape. This was her chance. The inheritance, the empire, everything that Lily had destroyed was now within reach. It was not just about money, it was about the control she had long been denied. Emma had worked tirelessly for years to build her own success, and now she could finally take her rightful place at the helm of the family fortune. Lily's downfall reached its apex when her mansion was foreclosed upon. Emma watched as Lily's perfect world crumbled, piece by piece. She saw her sister, once so confident and carefree, now desperate, scrambling to hold onto the remnants of a life she had once taken for granted. Lily reached out to Emma, calling her for help, but Emma couldn't bring herself to feel sympathy. She had spent years being sidelined, watching as Lily was handed everything. Now Lily was reaping the consequences of her own choices, and Emma wasn't about to save her. The turning point came when Emma received a call from the bank, informing her that Lily was on the verge of losing the last of the family properties. Her debts had spiraled so out of control that she couldn't even pay the interest anymore. Emma knew that this was the moment she could step in and take back what she had lost. She could reclaim the fortune that had been denied to her, the legacy that should have been hers all along. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that the family estate could be hers for the taking. Lily's desperation was palpable. She had tried to salvage what was left, calling on old friends, begging for investments, but no one was willing to help. Her social circle, which had once been filled with admirers and sycophants, had begun to turn their backs. Without her wealth, Lily was nothing. She had no influence, no power, and no one to lean on. Emma, however, had quietly built her own success. She had become a respected businesswoman in her own right, her hard work and shrewd investments paying off in ways that Lily's superficial efforts never could. She had a steady career, a growing portfolio, and the financial stability that her sister could only dream of. It wasn't just about money, it was about competence. Emma had proven she could manage and grow wealth. Lily had proven she couldn't even hold on to it. As Lily's financial empire crumbled, Emma felt a strange sense of satisfaction. She had always known she was the more capable one, but now the world was seeing it too. The family estate, the businesses, and everything that had once been out of her reach was now poised to fall into her hands. The idea of reclaiming what was rightfully hers, of finally being in control, consumed Emma. Lily, on the other hand, was unraveling. Emma could see it in her sister's eyes. The confidence had drained away, replaced by fear and confusion. She knew she was losing everything, but she didn't know how to stop it. The realization that her once perfect life was slipping through her fingers was too much for her to bear. Emma, now watching from the sidelines, saw an opportunity. She had been left out of the inheritance before, but that was about to change. The family fortune was no longer safe in Lily's hands. The power that had been so easily given to her sister was now ripe for the taking. Emma wasn't going to be the one left out again. She had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, and watched too long from the shadows. Now, it was her turn to take control. The tables had turned, and Emma was ready to seize the moment. The heavy knock at the door was all it took for Emma to realize that everything had changed. It was late in the evening, and the house was quiet, save for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the floorboards as the wind howled outside. Emma hadn't expected anyone, certainly not Lily, not after all that had happened. But there she was, standing on the doorstep, looking like a shadow of the woman she once was. Lily's appearance was nothing like the picture-perfect image she'd once projected. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes puffy from crying, and her designer clothes, usually crisp and immaculate, now seemed wrinkled and out of place on her frail frame. She looked defeated, stripped of her usual arrogance, and for the first time in Emma's life, Lily appeared vulnerable. Emma's pulse quickened, a mixture of anger, confusion, and something far more unsettling, sympathy. "Emma, please, can we talk?" Lily's voice was almost a whisper, filled with desperation. She didn't wait for Emma's response, stepping into the hallway, as though she had no other place to go. Emma didn't say a word. She just watched, her arms folded tightly across her chest, as Lily hesitated, clearly trying to find the right words. Emma's mind raced, remembering the countless times Lily had turned her back on her, acting like the world owed her everything. She wanted to turn away, slam the door in Lily's face, and walk away from the entire mess. But there was a part of her that couldn't ignore what was happening. Not anymore. Lily took a deep breath, fighting back tears, before she finally spoke. "I've lost everything, Emma. The mansion, the businesses, the money, everything. I'm not the same person I was. I swear I've learned my lesson." She paused, her hands trembling. "I need your help." The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. Emma's stomach churned, and for a moment, she felt her resolve falter. It wasn't that she was heartless, it was that the bitterness had built up over years of watching Lily squander everything that Emma had worked so hard for. Watching her sister fall from grace should have been satisfying, even a little sweet, but it felt hollow. The years of resentment, of being overlooked and disregarded, were still fresh in Emma's mind. Lily continued, her voice shaky. I know I've made mistakes. I've messed up, and I don't deserve anything from you. But Emma, please, I'm not asking for charity. I need your expertise. I need you to step in, use your connections, your knowledge. I can't fix this on my own. I've burned all my bridges. I need you to help me get back on track. The desperation in Lily's voice was raw and unfiltered, and Emma could feel the vulnerability in her sister's words. For the first time in years, Lily wasn't talking about herself as if she was above everyone. There was no sense of entitlement, no arrogance, just the stark realization that she was lost and had nowhere else to turn. Emma's thoughts swirled, torn between the sympathy she felt for Lily's downfall and the anger that burned through her veins. Sympathy was dangerous, though. It was what had kept Emma in the shadows for so long. She had sacrificed so much to be independent, to prove that she could build something of her own, without relying on the family name. Watching her sister implode, with everything she had taken for granted, should have been justice, but instead, it felt like a betrayal to herself. You think I should just step in and fix it all for you? Emma's voice was steady, but the words felt foreign as they left her mouth. She couldn't help the bitterness that crept into her tone. After everything you've done, after you were handed everything while I was left to pick up the pieces. Lily lowered her head, as if ashamed. I know. I was selfish. I should have seen what was happening. I should have been more careful with the money, with the businesses. I wasn't ready for any of it. She took a step closer to Emma, her eyes pleading. But I can't do this alone, Emma. I'm scared. I'm scared I've lost everything, and that I'll never be the person I used to be. Emma clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. She wanted to be angry, to tell Lily that she deserved this downfall, that she was paying the price for her arrogance and entitlement. But a voice in her head whispered to her, reminding her of the opportunity that lay in front of her. The family fortune, the legacy that had been ripped away from her all those years ago, was on the verge of slipping through Lily's fingers. Emma could take it back, she could take control. What do you want from me, Lily? Emma's voice was tight, but she knew she had to ask. This was no longer about the past, it was about the future, her future. Lily hesitated, then looked up at Emma with something that seemed almost like relief in her eyes. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm asking for your help to fix the mess I've made. I'm asking you to help me rebuild what I've lost. She paused, her voice trembling with emotion. I'll give you a stake in the family business. We can work together. It'll be different this time. I'll make it right. Emma felt her heart rate quicken as Lily's words sank in. The family business, the fortune, the legacy, everything Lily had squandered could now be hers. But it wouldn't just be a gift. It would be something earned. Emma could finally step into the position she'd been denied, not as a charity case, but as someone who had earned her place through hard work, intelligence, and resilience. As Lily continued to plead, Emma's mind whirred. Her sister's plea, the tears in her eyes, the desperation in her voice, it was all real. But so was the opportunity. Emma's anger began to fade as a plan started to form in her mind, a plan that would put her firmly in control. She wasn't going to save Lily out of the goodness of her heart. She was going to take what was rightfully hers. She looked at her sister, her eyes cold, calculating. I'll help you, Emma said, her voice steady. But understand this, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. Lily's face lit up with hope, not realizing that Emma's offer came with conditions she would soon come to regret. Emma had a long memory, and now it was her time to take control. The family business had once been an empire, its wealth stretching far and wide, built over generations. But after Lily's reckless handling of the fortune, it was a shell of what it once was. What had been sprawling estates, luxury investments, and a carefully curated legacy now lay in disarray, over-leveraged, mismanaged, and on the verge of collapse. Lily had been the golden child, but Emma knew she was the one with the sharp business acumen to save it. From the moment she stepped into the office, Emma's confidence was palpable. While Lily had been content to bask in her entitled status, Emma had built her career from the ground up. She knew how to turn a failing business around, how to make hard decisions that others were too afraid to make. And now, the time had come to take what was rightfully hers. Emma walked into the grand office, her heels clicking on the polished floor. It was Lily's office, her throne, her space to dictate the future of the family fortune, but now it was Emma's. She had taken control the moment Lily had come to her for help. But Emma wasn't going to be content with simply stepping in as a partner. No, this was Emma's chance to seize the reins and make her mark. The first few weeks were a blur of meetings, phone calls, and long hours. Emma quickly assessed the state of the business and its assets. There were properties in prime locations, some of which had become liabilities because of Lily's mismanagement, and there were investments ventures that Lily had poured money into without a clear strategy now hanging by a thread. But Emma was no stranger to such challenges. She had the mind of a strategist and the instincts of a survivor. She rolled up her sleeves and got to work. Her first major move was to sell off several underperforming properties, ones that drained the company's resources without offering any return. Lily had been too emotionally attached to them, too blinded by their sentimental value. Emma, however, saw only the bottom line, and she knew how to cut her losses. "Look, we need to liquidate. It's the only way we're going to stop this hemorrhaging," Emma told her team of advisors. They hesitated, but Emma's decision was final. Within weeks, the properties were sold, and the funds were used to stabilize the company's finances. The change was immediate. Investors began to take notice of the company's newfound stability. They saw a leader in Emma, someone who could turn things around and restore the company to its former glory. Her financial acumen, combined with her no-nonsense attitude, earned her the trust of key players in the industry. Employees, too, began to respect her, seeing that Emma was not afraid to make the tough calls, to cut through the noise, and to move the company forward. Lily, however, watched it all from the sidelines, her pride wounded. She had once been the darling of the family, the one everyone expected to take charge. But now, she was a mere bystander, unable to stop Emma's rise to power. She watched as Emma effortlessly earned the respect of the board members and investors, something Lily had struggled with for years. Emma's ability to communicate with people, to negotiate with authority, and to make the right decisions made her impossible to ignore. As Emma's confidence grew, so did her sense of entitlement. She knew that she wasn't just fixing Lily's mistakes, she was taking the family legacy back. Slowly, she began positioning herself as the rightful heir to the fortune. She wasn't just a savior, she was the one who had the vision and the skills to lead. Lily's reckless handling of the inheritance had caused irreparable damage, and Emma knew she was the one who could save it. But it wasn't just about the money for Emma. She had been overlooked for too long. She had worked tirelessly her entire life while Lily coasted on the family's wealth and reputation. Emma had earned her place at the top, not because of birthright, but because of her ability to succeed in a world that demanded results. And now, she was going to claim it. In a pivotal meeting, Emma confronted Lily in front of the board of directors. The tension was thick in the room. Emma had gathered all the facts, documents, financial statements, and evidence of Lily's poor decisions. There was no hiding from the truth anymore. "Lily, I've tried to help you, but this isn't just about helping you anymore. It's about saving what's left of the family legacy. You can't manage the business. You never could," Emma said, her voice unwavering as she turned to face her sister. Lily's eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, but there was none. She was cornered, and everyone in the room knew it. Emma had laid bare the facts. Lily's failure to safeguard the family wealth had left them in dire straits. No one believed that Lily could pull them out of the mess she had created. "You've ruined this," Emma continued, her tone growing colder with each word. "I've done everything I can to fix it. But I'm not doing this for you, Lily. I'm doing this for the future of this company, for the family name." Lily's face flushed with humiliation as the weight of Emma's words settled over her. She had failed. Her entitlement had blinded her, and now she was left with nothing but the wreckage of her own decisions. The very thing she had been handed on a silver platter was slipping away from her fingers, and she could do nothing to stop it. "I can't believe you're doing this to me," Lily whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. "This isn't personal," Emma replied, her gaze unwavering. "It's business, and it's about time we ran it like one." The room fell silent as Emma turned back to the board. They had seen enough. Emma was in control now, and there was no going back. As the meeting concluded, Emma felt a sense of power settle over her. This was her moment, her time to rise to the top. The family fortune, what was left of it, was now hers to rebuild, but she would do it on her own terms without the shadow of Lily's incompetence hanging over her. She had earned this. Lily, for all her pleas and desperation, was no longer the one in charge. Emma had taken what was rightfully hers, and now she was going to make sure the family's legacy was restored on her own terms. The family empire, once thriving under Lily's care, was now in the capable hands of Emma. It had been a slow but decisive takeover first. Emma had steered the business away from the brink of disaster. Then, she had started consolidating her power, making it clear that she was the rightful heir, the one who had earned the seat at the head of the table. She had righted the ship with her decisive actions, and in doing so she had left Lily in the dust. As Emma's decisions grew bolder and the family wealth began to stabilize, it was clear that she was no longer simply helping Lily. She was the one in control now, and Lily's reckless actions had led to her downfall. Emma's first step was to overhaul the family business. New management, a fresh financial strategy, and a more ruthless approach to business. Gone were the days of indulgent spending, bad investments, and inherited luxuries. Emma knew that in order to secure her position as the leader of the family legacy, she had to prove herself, not only to the board and investors but to herself. She implemented a strict budget, cutting unnecessary expenses, and sold off properties that Lily had been emotionally attached but that had only drained the company's resources. The change was swift, and with every successful decision, Emma's position became more solidified. The family legacy now under Emma's reign was slowly but surely being rebuilt. But for Lily, the reality was too much to bear. She had lost it all: the fortune, the family business, and most devastating of all, her place in the family she had once dominated. Every day she watched from the sidelines as Emma's star rose higher. There were no more calls for advice, no more family gatherings where Lily was the center of attention. The wealth she had once squandered was now firmly in Emma's hands. The empire had moved on without her, and Lily was left with nothing but her own mistakes. Lily had underestimated Emma for so long, assuming that Emma would always be content to play the role of the dutiful, responsible sibling. But Emma had done the unthinkable. She had not only stepped up to the plate, but had taken everything that had once belonged to Lily. Now, in the quiet of her isolation, Lily was forced to confront the full scope of her failures. In one last desperate attempt to reclaim control, Lily made her move. She showed up at Emma's office one afternoon, her eyes red with frustration and anger, but also tinged with a deep sense of vulnerability. She knew this was her final chance, the only opportunity left to her. "Emma," Lily began, her voice trembling slightly, "you can't do this. You can't take everything from me. I know I messed up. I know I made mistakes, but please, just give me one more chance. I can do better. I can fix this. You know I can." Emma looked up from the paperwork spread across her desk, her expression unreadable. She had heard the desperation in Lily's voice before, but this time it was different. Lily had no power left to back up her words. Emma's silence hung in the air, a sharp contrast to the frantic energy that Lily brought into the room. "You had your chance," Emma said, her voice steady, but firm. "You had everything handed to you, and you threw it away. You ruined this family's legacy, and now you expect me to trust you again. You've made it clear time and time again that you can't handle responsibility. You've lost everything, and this time, there's no coming back from it." Lily's face flushed with humiliation as the weight of Emma's words sunk in. She had no retort, no defense. The truth was that she had squandered it all, and Emma had succeeded where she had failed. Lily had no one to blame but herself, and in that moment, she realized that all her manipulation, all her privileged existence, had led her to this. She was powerless. "Please," Lily whispered, the vulnerability now overwhelming her. "I never meant for this to happen. I never meant to hurt you or anyone." But Emma wasn't moved. She had come to terms with the fact that her sister's failings weren't her responsibility. She had no more room for guilt. "I've given you chances, Lily," Emma replied, her voice cutting through the tension. "But you never changed. You always thought you could fix things with more lies, more manipulation. I've worked too hard to build something for you to just come in here and expect me to hand it all back to you." The finality in Emma's tone was unmistakable. Lily's attempt to appeal to her sister's compassion had failed. Emma had taken control not just of the family fortune, but of her own life, and she was no longer willing to allow her sister to destroy it all over again. Lily stood there, her tears threatening to fall, but Emma's resolve was unshakable. Emma had already made her decision. The family business was now firmly in her hands, and Lily had no place in it. Emma had no intention of handing the reins back to her. As Lily turned and left the office, her defeat was complete. There would be no redemption, no second chance. Emma's words echoed in her ears as she walked down the hallway. There's no coming back from this. Emma, on the other hand, sat in her office, staring out the window at the sprawling estate that was now hers. She had won, but the victory felt hollow. She had gained control of everything she had been denied, everything she had worked so hard for, but in doing so, she had lost her sister. Emma's heart ached as she thought about the years they had spent together, the memories they had shared, now tainted by betrayal and resentment. She had made her choice. She had fought for the family legacy, for the fortune that should have been hers from the start. But at what cost? Emma's rise to power had come with consequences. She had secured her place at the top, but in doing so, she had severed the bond with her sister. And while Emma knew she had made the right decision for the business, for the future of the family's wealth, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had been lost along the way. She had won the battle, but the toll it had taken on her relationship with Lily, on the family she had once known, was something she would carry with her for the rest of her life. Emma stood at the top of the family estate, looking out over the sprawling grounds that were once shared by her and Lily. The mansion, now under her control, gleamed in the sunlight, a symbol of her triumph. She had fought for this position, endured betrayal, and made hard choices that had ultimately led her to the helm of the family legacy, a legacy she had once been denied, now firmly in her grasp. But as Emma surveyed the empire she had rebuilt, a familiar weight pressed on her chest. The success she had achieved had come at a high emotional cost. She had lost her sister, someone who had been her closest companion, her equal in childhood. Now, that bond was irreparably broken, and no amount of wealth or power could replace the void left by the loss of their relationship. She had won the battle for the family fortune, but it was a hollow victory. The moral implications of her actions lingered in her mind. She had been ruthless, and perhaps she had been too quick to cut ties with Lily. Emma knew that her rise to power was not the fairy tale ending she once envisioned. It wasn't a triumph of hard work alone, it was a painful, calculated decision made from years of resentment and necessity. In the quiet moments of reflection, Emma questioned whether it had all been worth it. She had always been the responsible one, the one who had worked tirelessly while Lily had basked in the luxury of the inheritance. Emma's hard work had earned her everything she now possessed, but the cost of securing her place at the top had been the emotional destruction of a family bond. Yet, Emma also found peace in the thought that the family fortune was in capable hands. She had always believed in the potential for greatness, her own potential. She had shown everyone, including herself, that she could rise above the circumstances and take control. No longer was she overlooked or dismissed. She had earned her place. As she walked through the halls of the mansion, her steps resonated with the weight of her choices. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, Emma felt a sense of ownership not just of the family business, but of her own path forward. She had forged her way, however harshly, and now she had the power to shape her own destiny. Emma knew that the decisions she had made would define her life from here on out, and while they hadn't come without pain, she was at peace with them. The family fortune, once a symbol of privilege and disappointment, was now a reflection of her strength, resilience, and ability to protect her legacy. The past was behind her, and as Emma moved forward, she understood that while the journey had been brutal, it had been necessary to secure her future, protect her inheritance, and ensure that the family name would live on under her leadership. The future was hers to shape, and she would never again let anyone take that away from her.